Let's go. Streaming data free on the MTN network in South Africa.
This is Omnisport.
T's and C's apply.
Right, now to that massive story in Nigeria that is affecting sort of the cream of the crop when it comes to sport in Nigeria. The Super Eagles men's team, Augustine Eguavoen, whose official title is Technical Director of the Nigerian Football Federation, is also the interim head coach, who apparently resigned a couple of days ago. But yesterday he came out fighting to say, that was not true. Eguavoen was appointed by the NFF to take charge in the first two games of AFCON qualifying in 2025, following the inability of the federation to secure the services of German coach Bruno Labbadia over what they call stringent German tax laws. Now, I don't know what that's got to do with the NFF, but that was their reasoning. Stringent German tax laws. That's why Labbadia couldn't come in as the full-time coach. The story, according to sources, goes as such. After Tuesday's goalless draw against Rwanda in Kigali, Eguavoen was said to have stepped down as interim coach. But hold your horses, says the coach slash technical director. He says, when I saw that story, I was worried. Whatever people are reading out there aren't correct. I'm still very much in charge. I'm the technical director of the NFF, saddled with the responsibility of taking the Super Eagles at this moment. I mean,
it's a mess. It is possibly the biggest team in Africa playing silly buggers with themselves. They've got a coach, then they don't have a coach. They get interim director. Apparently, this is the fifth or fourth or sixth time that he's been asked to step up as interim coach for the team. It's ludicrous. I see a lot of Nigerians on social media calling for him to be given the job full time. See, enough of this interim.
Yeah.
He must be full time.
24/7.
Yeah.
But here's my thing. If he's the technical director, right, is that not a full-time job on its own? That's my question. It's like, I would imagine being, if you're thinking of a structure of a company, the CEO is also, he's not mopping the floor. Like there is a cleaning service for that, with probably an ops manager for that. So there's a cleaning lady or man who will mop the floor. The CEO is not doing that as well. Is being a technical director is an extremely demanding task. You're overseeing the entire technical side of arguably the biggest football nation in Africa. I would think that's enough of a job.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Rassie Erasmus being technical director of SA Rugby, and that includes the coaches, provincial provincial teams, from schoolboy talent all the way through. It's not just the Nigerian team. The Nigerian team's just at the pinnacle. They're the top. They're the top of the iceberg.
Yeah.
The rest of it underneath. The technical director, that's his job. It's not to fill in every second time whenever they fire another coach. They go through coaches like pirates. It's ridiculous.
Well, no, it's as you say. There's the women's team, there's the junior teams, there's the Olympics teams. There's all these teams to worry about as a technical director. But now you must also take the best, worst job in the world. Could you imagine the pressure you have to be under to be the Super Eagles head coach? So he's taking that on as well. And I love the fact that he's come out and said, whether it's a Freudian slip or not, in the West, we kind of used to a little bit of political correctness. He says, I'm the technical director of the NFF, but I'm saddled with the responsibility. It's almost like being a stepfather. Now it's like I'm saddled with her 2 kids as well as my 3 kids. He's kind of admitting that, bloody hell, I just wish someone else would do this job. But on a very serious note, I think this team has Ademola Lookman, Victor Boniface, Victor Osimhen as striking options. Now, based on last season's performance, these 3 players, in my opinion, could start at any of the top 5 clubs in the world. Yeah. Boniface at unbeaten Leverkusen was the star player last year. He was the point man at Leverkusen last year. Unbeaten season, one of the most historical seasons in the world. He was their best player and point man. Victor Osimhen, you could argue, is the second, third best striker in the world. There's, I would say, obviously Erling Braut Haaland, Harry Kane. And some people might say, Victor Osimhen, I'd take him over Harry Kane. So you're talking about a creme de la creme player. And then we saw Ademola Lookman come at the hour, come at the man, Europa League final. What happened? Bangs the goals, right? Is big moment. He delivered. So he's clearly a world-class player. These guys are all available to Nigeria, by the way.
Yeah.
Yet here we are. We find ourselves with no manager. This is not good enough. And I don't know what Nigerians feel. I would love to hear from anybody who's a football fan. 0788 777716. Because I remember in 1996 when Nigeria became the first African team to win an Olympic, and remember JJ Okocha and the great Nwaku Kanu, and somebody who will be on with Onakosi. Listen out for an explosive interview coming up in the Premier Football Show. The great Finidi George. And I don't use that word often. I think it's overused in general sort of social media age. Finidi George at Ajax was there. I mean, I'm talking Mark Overmars. I'm talking Dennis Bergkamp. That version. Yeah. Edgar Davids, Clarence Seedorf. Finidi George started in that team. You remember that famous team that won, of course, under Louis van Gaal. They won the Champions League. Finidi George was a staple in that squad. So he comes out later to explain some absolute madness that's going on. So he talks about Victor Osimhen calling him out. What led to that situation? Remember, Victor Osimhen came out and called him out on social media. And then the internal politics of how he got fired, having lasted just 47 days as the interim manager before the current situation. So listen to that Premier Football Show. Onakosi, that is an exclusive coming up today on Premier Football Show. But you've got those three strikers and no coach. We can't allow this to happen. This is a potential golden generation going to waste.
You speak about Finidi George. He lasted 4 games, only 2 competitive games, and yet he beat Ghana 2-1. But people didn't believe that he had the right qualifications for the job, the right sort of oomph. He wasn't the right guy. But then who is? I mean, there's so many guys for candidates to be the next match. So after Labadia didn't rock up, then they're looking at the Swedish coach, Jenny Andersson, and the 2-time AFCON winner, Hervé Renard. But maybe just take your technical director and give him the job full time. And there's also the worry that in the sidelines, lurks darkness.
Lurking in the darkness is this man, convicted match fixer, I believe who you're talking about, Samson Siasia, who was one of the most successful, of course, of the Super Eagles. He's lurking in the shadows, I think. So for those who don't know, Siasia has just served a 5-year ban for match fixing. This guy is a convicted match fixer, and there's real reports in the Nigerian media to say this guy might come back. What are we doing, Nigeria? Oh, are we not taking this seriously? Like, have I lost my mind? Or Nigeria just not taking this seriously?
I don't think so. I mean, it's almost like looking over a doping ban. He said, no, he's okay, won't do it again. But, I mean, he was fun. So he was involved with a Singaporean match fixer, serial match fixer. He fixed over 1,000 games globally. A guy called Wilson Paj Puyamal. And he basically, as FIFA said it, I'll read it out their actual finding. They said they found him guilty of having accepted that he would receive bribes in relation to the manipulation of matches in violation of the FIFA Ethics Code. And then they initially banned him for life. FIFA banned him for life. Then he took it to CAS, the Court for Arbitration of Sport, and he got reduced to 5 years. And he was like talking about the high life is going to be great afterwards. The newspapers and the Nigerian media were special. They were going, Samson is free.
Really?
Yeah, and they talked about an international coach. I think it was the Pulse Sports of Nigeria said, what was the quote? It said, we would rather have a Siasia back rather than a foreign coach sucking off our foreign currency. Which brings a whole new image, but I'm not going to go there.
Yeah. No, it's too early in the morning on an empty stomach to go there. But to me, it's phenomenal. And if you are a football fan and you are indeed in Nigeria, 0788777716, what are your thoughts on the state of Nigerian football as it stands? Because all they have to do is look across the lake. Proverbial lake is Cameroon, right? We've seen what happened with Samuel Eto'o and the new coach, where the Football Federation in Cameroon went above Samuel Eto'o's head. He's the president but the Football Federation said, nah, we're hiring the coach. You don't worry about it. We don't even care. And Samuel Eto'o, Samuel Eto'o, confronted that in public. I mean, that got ugly. At the end of the day, the victims are the players. And I think we do need to take a look at ourselves, because if we don't call ourselves out as Africans, no one's going to come and save us. Yeah. This is why the players go and play for Italy and France and England. And then we cry that Bukayo Saka doesn't want to come back and play for Africa. Then we cry because what guy who's earning 150, 200,000 pounds at Arsenal, at Bayern Munich, at whatever, wants to come back and play in these conditions? It's not a reasonable ask.
I mean, the only reason some of them might do it is for the fact that they need to keep their permanent resident status in the countries that they play. But very few, the guys who are born there, don't come back. Lookman is probably the only one. He was one of the few, rather. So obviously born in England, London, plays in Italy, and he's come back. But exactly that. And in Cameroon, I mean, they're going through a world of hurt. I mean, they drew to Zimbabwe. They aren't looking great. They're just looking rudderless.
But this is what happens. Onakosi is talking to the iconic Finidi George on the Premier Football Show about his 47 days and 2 competitive matches in charge in the NFF washing machine. It'll be an explosive interview. Listen out for the Premier Football Show with Onakosi and Finidi George today. Coming up in 60 seconds, my brother tried to extort me for $13 million. It is the Pogba files.
Let's go. Streaming data free on the MTM network in South Africa.
This is Omni Sport.
T's and C's apply.